Cricbuzz Chatter at the end of day 2 of this first test match, India versus Bangladesh, coming from Chepauk, DK's beloved Chepauk. And you don't normally call day 2 a moving day. You tend to say, okay, day 3 things happen. But Chepauk moved. Chepauk moved, it trembled, all kinds of things happened on day 2. We kept telling everybody best batting day, best batting day. 17 wickets fell. On that note, it's a good time to say hello to DK because look at this card. India went from what 339 for 6 to 376. Bangladesh bowled out again. India lose 3 wickets. Now tell me, DK, most people who live in Chennai are nice, simple, placid people. What you see on the surface is what you get, except Chepauk. What happened?
Tell you what, my day started on a bad note, I feel. I did the pitch report and I said it's going to be an absolute belter of a day. And it turned out to be anything other than that. It turned out to be the day where most number of wickets ever fell in Chepauk. Now, that tells you that my pitch report was right. The stroke making was wrong. That's all I can tell you. There were no demons in the pitch. And we alluded to that even in the com box. But the fact is that there was some ordinary shot making. But make no mistake, good bowling. The world-class Bumrah at his best yet again in home conditions. And we're going to speak plenty about him in the show. But overall, it was a day where shot making need to be re-looked at.
It was an interesting one. In this test match, every time Bangladesh have given a hint of competing, the game has moved away from them. I thought they started well today, picked up 4 wickets for 37, kept India down to what might have been a 400 plus score, and then they come out and just lost a wicket in the first over. And Bumrah showed his class right up front. 5 balls over the wicket, quickly went round the wicket. The left-hander gave a clear view of the off stump. Finished 4 for 50. Now, I'll tell you what's interesting in that. Bumrah taking 4 wickets these days to expect. It's an economy of 4.54. And it's one of the shots in those 50 runs that produced a side to Bumrah that I haven't seen for a while. Poor Taskin Ahmed tried to slog a slower ball and Bumrah went after him and you suddenly discovered, hang on, underneath this genial, very kind looking air that he's got, especially off the field with glasses like DK is not mine, there exists a fast bowler who gets angry.
I think the Cricbuzz show is generally done with you and me these days. But if you'd call James Anderson on the show, he'd paint a very real picture as to how it feels to face a very fiery Bumrah. He felt it on that Lord's Day that evening. But today, Taskin Ahmed, you felt for him at a point because literally the ball and the chest were talking to each other for a longer time than anybody would have wished. And then that Yorker to finish it off. But again, Harsha, we are speaking about a genius in play, isn't it? Yesterday, we spoke about Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja. Their relationship together as all-rounders and taking Indian Test cricket to a different height in India, at least, for sure. But Bumrah, across the board, Harsha. I mean, we're talking about in Australia, you take him, he picks up wickets, gets a slow one. So many memories there. South Africa, where he started his journey. England, forget it. Ask Keaton Jennings. He still gets nightmares, I think, how we set him up in that first over in that series and in subcontinent conditions like India as well. There are many players who we can find. I think Bumrah will be someone who will be very hard to replace. And I don't think stats do justice, Harsha, to what he is able to produce day in and day out. I have been a leader of a few teams over a period of time. And a person like Bumrah is worth its weight in gold. Just go back about 3 months. That World T20 final, the game on the line, Henrik Klaasen batting, one of the best batters in the world, going great guns. All it required was a Bumrah 6 to 8 run over, and probably South Africa would have crossed that line rather comfortably. Gives a 2 run over, Harsha. So then they have to take on Hardik Pandya the next over. And we all know the rest is history. It's just the pressure he creates. Whenever the game is on the line, it is Bumrah. When there is no wicket falling in Test cricket, it is Bumrah. Early morning conditions are available. Fast bowlers need to use it. It is Bumrah again. Man, we can speak about him separately. And that's why we did that show in Cricbuzz for fast bowlers. And he was right at the top of it. And he is worth every second that we speak about him.
You're absolutely right that stats don't convey the joy of watching Bumrah bowl, but the stats do tell a story of his progress. if you look at the wickets tally, and we're looking across all formats of the game, he's now gone past 400 wickets. We are talking Test plus ODIs plus T20Is. Now, if in that list, Mohammad Shami, Ishant Sharma in recent times, to some extent, Zahir Khan have also got IPL wickets. Because remember, 2 months a year you play IPL. Bumrah's played what 14 into he must have played 160, 170 games. If you add that, he's significantly higher. But 401 wickets, and I think when we had this graphic up, you might have referred to the rightmost column, an average of 21, which is astonishing. I mean, even today they conceded a few runs, but he took 4 for 50. That's 12 and a half.
And as a skipper, every day you'll take a bowler going at 4 and 5 runs and over in Test cricket if he's able to get you 4 wickets and gets the team all out in 149, 150. I mean, the runs are going because he's bowling fuller. He's looking for wickets, looking for swing, and he's trying to get a wicket, which in turn at times means the odd boundary coming of the front foot or the back foot. And I'm sure Rohit is completely okay with that. We are spoiled for choice, I feel. When we look at Bumrah, every time we see him, the economy column will be 1.2, on a bad day, 2.5. We're not used to seeing 4.5, and it's an anomaly. But the fact is that the man, just like you said, if you add the IPL wickets he's got over a period of 12, 13 seasons, he's right up with the best that's ever played the game across formats, Harsha.
Now you know him. I've only said hello a couple of times. I've seen him from a distance, a couple of times, more than just a little hello. But does he need to be managed, or is he clever enough to say, no, this is how I'm going to lead my life, I'll prepare for my games? And does he have enough in him to take another 280 wickets across formats?
He needs to be managed.
I mean,
But
does he have to if he's winning games? Stats should be an outcome of winning matches.
true. And he needs to be managed, to answer your question, but not him personally or his technicalities of his bowling. It's just his workload, how much he wants to play. At time, you need to stop him back and say, enough. You can't play all three formats consistently. He is someone who needs at times a break to go recuperate, get his body up and running. The one big difference for Bumrah is there has been a Bumrah within his body. I mean, post back surgery and pre back surgery. Post back surgery, the way he's trained like a professional, just like his bowling, his body was also a bit raw in the sense that never used to the gym as much, even through his domestic cricket. He was a very natural bowler. Yes, he's got a very different action, but that doesn't mean he's not a natural. And that required some work to get him up and running so that all the muscles were firing in the right direction. And that meant he had to go to the gym to do a certain amount of running, all of that. And that he has definitely worked on in the last few years post his back surgery. And he's told me that personally. His training culture has changed, and hence he is taking care of his body like a temple. And just his mindset, the very self-confident kid. So all you need to do is take care of him, not mentally or technically, but just manage how much he has to play. And then the last column, which is the wickets column, more often than not, across formats, if he plays, he will definitely get there and surpass whatever you have in your mind.
May I draw your attention to something Dinesh Karthik just said? Now, if you've been watching the telecast, he's been giving me a hard time about how far back I go. But sometimes, you understand the passage of time yourself. He just called Jasprit Bumrah, his teammate in the Indian team, a kid. And I'm very happy to hear that. You call Jasprit Bumrah a kid. Welcome to the club, DK. Welcome to the club. Starting to feel a little bit older. I'll tell you what, the one good thing today from India's point of view was that there was support for Bumrah, because Rohit was very clear. He was bowling Bumrah in 3 max 4 over spells. Today, he wasn't letting him bowl much. But when Bumrah was not bowling, I thought Siraj bowled an excellent first spell. Came back and picked up a second, but his first spell was excellent. And whatever little we saw of Akash Deep, 5 overs, 2 for 19 was fantastic. On the telecast today, we showed the wickets from the Duleep Trophy. Now, what was interesting was at that point, he was bowling balls that were leaving the left-hander. And one of those wickets was the ball that swung back into the left-hander. I remember saying, wow, can he do that consistently? And guess what? The next two knocked over with balls that were coming back in. I was quite impressed with Akash Deep. I don't know about you. I know you've talked about him for a while, but is he, number one, in your good books? Number two, is he in your team to Australia on the basis of what you've seen?
my good books, he is right up there with some of the best that there is. Lovely kid, great. I don't know why I keep.
I asked you for a
I'm just
reason.
going
He's
to say this,
RCB, you
Harsha.
didn't play him.
For all the Cricbuzz viewers, if I refer to any boy as a kid, Harsha will refer to them as toddlers from here on, just to set the
There we go.
relativity
See,
of
tell you
our age.
all these young fellows, I tell you.
But on a serious note, Akash Deep is a very good bowler, talented. Red ball is his strongest suit for a start. He likes bowling those long overs, has got pace, doesn't swing the ball as much as he seems and nips it away. What we saw today was a little bit of in shape coming back in, but off the surface, it deviated enough to beat the defenses of both the batters. He is someone who's a very effective bowler to left-handers because the ball comes back at good pace. Also, a very productive bowler even against right-handers. But for me, his biggest attribute is his attitude, the willingness to bowl consistently at the same speed, whether you make him bowl at 9:30 in the morning or 4 o'clock in the evening. That is a very important skill to have. And among the bowlers of the second rung, let's just keep Bumrah, Siraj and Shami in one bucket. And then when you look at the other bowlers that are available, I think Yashasvi, Akash Deep, these are the bowlers that spring up in terms of names. Then we have the Prasidh Krishnas. We spoke about Mayank Yadav, but for the moment in the Australian Test series, I think he's a walk-in. He could definitely be the backup medium pacer after the first three medium pacers. In the two Test matches that he's played, he has produced spells where he's gotten good wickets and not one in a spell. He's picked up two, at times three in a Test match. So it tells me he has the caliber to get good batters out.
Siraj, Akash Deep, Yash Dayal, Dinesh Karthik. Three current RCB players, one RCB mentor, assistant coach, everything soon to be Supremo. Good times for RCB. Good times for RCB. But I'll tell you, even I was impressed by Akash Deep. There's a little bit of fire about him, when he takes a wicket, there's a little flamboyance about him. He likes taking wickets. He's had to wait. He's had to wait. But I like the fact that in domestic cricket he bowls long spells. That's how Siraj came from. And he's played 32 first-class games. He's been around for a while. I think he's ready. He will be tested in Australia, some of the best batting pitches in the world. He will be tested. But unless you go there, you will never find out. But Bangladesh found out today. I was actually disappointed with Bangladesh with their batting today, because we've been talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 being disappointing. I thought 1, 2, 3, 4 were very disappointing. Shanto played some good shots, but they're putting far too much pressure on 5, 6, 7, 8, which is, for want of a better expression, their engine room. And of all those, yes, Sadman Islam got out early. I thought the wicket of Mushfiqur Rahim, where Bumrah just bowled in that lovely channel. And I think it needs to be said as well that the slip catching today was a fantastic support to the fast bowlers. I think of all of those, Shaki batted well today. Litton was looking good. I like the way Mehdi Hasan Miraj batted today too. But these are 20s, 20s are, when you're playing local division cricket, 20 is that paper score. We talk about, you score 20, you get into the papers. You don't win test matches with 20s and 30s.
And that's been the disappointing part about Bangladesh batting today. None of the batters applied enough to get that big score. And it was a good batting pitch. And they had lost wickets to good balls, no doubt. But for me, somebody like a Shakib Al Hasan or a Litton Das playing that shot, still I'll cut him some slack. It's a shot that was not fraught with too much risk. But Shakib Al Hasan was a bit of a nothing shot for a man who's played so much Test cricket, knowing that Mehdi Hasan Miraj could forge a partnership with him, choosing to play that option, which tells me that it's my shot, I want to play it. It's not like this is the situation, this is what I need to do for Bangladesh. And that is something that a player of his caliber shouldn't have done for today. I mean, I'm sure he'll come back the next day and do way better, and that is something they expect as well. But for today, two things were glaringly obvious. A, application. B, the technical prowess as well. India is a world-class pace attack, Harsha. I cannot fathom to think what could have been if they had batted first in those conditions. It could have been a very sorry picture if this is how they batted in the second innings, in much better conditions. But for the moment, just beaten by pace, a little bit of seam movement, just the amount of bowls, Harsha, 5 in an innings, that's pretty alarming. It tells you that there is something that they need to look at. And constantly, the immediate retort to that would be, we went to Pakistan and we did well. But we all know Pakistan pitches were much flatter, much easier to bat on. And there are too many demons in their minds at the moment, which helps you as well. India, on the other hand, is a team which has reached the World Test Championship finals twice on the bounce and looking for the third. It's a much better team with a lot more quality in their bowling. And this batting today looked insipid in your language, Harsha. Hope I got the word right. Just check.
Insipid. He's picking up my words also. Just because I can't pick up his keeping, he's picking up my words. But in a peculiar sense, I'm looking at how many they made. They made what, 149? If 149 is a comeback, they were 40 for 5 and 92 for 7. Then that tells a story. I didn't see application, as you said. But when India came back, there's a couple of things I want to talk about before we finish today. Rohit wasn't in long enough to know whether he's in form or out of form. But what about Yashasvi Jaiswal? One of the things I loved in the first innings was the fact that he was leaving balls. I asked him in a pre-match interview as well, was that the aspect of your game that stood out? Because I thought that was a making of a good test batter. And DK, it might have been you on commentary today who brought out the fact that because batting conditions were looking easier, he was now starting to play shots to the very balls that he was leaving in the first innings. And it's created a pattern of dismissals where he's throwing his bat at a sort of fifth stump kind of ball.
Yeah, I don't think he started on 0, Harsha, today. I think he started on 52. He started where he left off in the second innings. And Test cricket is a very tough place. You could think the conditions are good. It's much better to bat on. I am feeling good about myself, but there is still the quality of an international cricket bowler. And these are 3 good bowlers that he faced today. And it's a very rookie era, just continuing from where you left off. And it is good that he got out the way he got out today. Knowing him and his personality, he'll go back to the drawing board and say, Yashasvi, this is not how it's done. I need to start simple and fresh, get through the new ball, playing good attacking shots. But if the pitch is telling me cover drive is not working today, not fight your ego against it, but accept it for the moment and come back and do it when the pitch is even better. Not fight it then and there, because then you might be losing a battle there. What you're fighting against is not the conditions, but yourself. Because you're saying, I want to play a cover drive, even though I played 2 and I got beaten, and I was looking at myself after the shot, thinking I've done everything right, but still I've not connected. So I'm going to go for it again. But the answer would have been, you're doing everything right. The pitch is telling you it's a tough shot on this pitch. So maybe you have to hold. The seam is still bolt upright and the bowlers are slightly fresher than they would be half an hour later. You might have to wait. These are questions that for sure he will answer in his mind today. And I can promise you, he'll come back and approach a first innings and a second innings at the start, at least very similarly, and not jump into what he did in the first innings, carry on that confidence and start like where you started, or rather where you left off in the first inning. You have to start afresh. We have heard the age-old cliches. You still start on 0 every time you bat.
Now, before India came into bat, there was a question about whether or not India should put Bangladesh into bat. Hadn't bowled such a lot. I know it was hot and humid, and that is where I'm going to put DK in the hot spot. Why are teams not enforcing the follow-on anymore? I mean, I'll be honest. In my dreams, if I was captain, I would not have enforced the follow-on. But teams are not doing that anymore. Could you have backed your bowlers and said, I'm playing 5. Akash Deep's only bowled 5 overs. Bumrah's bowled 11, 12. I've only got about 25 overs to bowl among 5 bowlers today, 25, 26. Put them in again.
Rhetorically, I would just ask you, Harsha, wouldn't you think, considering as much time as it is in this game, and the fact that the pitch is going to get harder to bat on as the game rolls on, isn't it the wiser decision today, considering you have 10 test matches to play and you'll need a lot of bowling from your fast bowlers to hold on and keep themselves fit? Is that fair, you think?
No, all my life, I've been a producer's anchor. And today I'm actually going to put my hand up and say, producer told me to ask, so I'm asking. I don't normally throw the producer under the bus, but it's a valid question. Look, the reason it's on our rundown is that's a question that a lot of people who are watching this program hopefully will want to ask. Why don't you enforce the follow-on? The bowlers haven't bowled that much, but I agree. In my view, there were 2 reasons. One is I thought some of the batters needed more time in the middle, get some runs behind them if they can get that confidence. But more than anything else, I agree with what you say. If this track is going to get worse, as you go along. You set a target of 400, 450. Then you're guaranteeing yourself a win. You don't want to get caught in a situation like in Bangladesh in that last test where they set you 130, 140 and you were 70 for 7. So I think post 2001, everyone's talked about it, but I think it was a pragmatic decision to go and bat first. As it turned out, Rohit didn't get the runs. We talked about Jaiswal, but I want to come to someone that who's been around for so long. There's hardly anything left to talk about him. But is there a little issue with Virat Kohli and spin? Because if you look at the numbers in the last few, say 2 or 3 years, you look at Virat Kohli's numbers, his averages against spin have dropped. I'll be fair here. Everybody in India, in this Indian team, everybody's average against spin has dropped. He's at 18 outs in recent times. He's averaging 27. That's not the Virat Kohli he used to come and dominate. You know Virat well. What do you think of him?
It's a bit of a detailed answer, Rasha. I have 3 points as soon as you asked that came to my mind. The first one, because you play so much white ball, you play on much better pitches and you're attacking most of the time when you play white ball cricket. So your ability to defend balls reduces considerably and you work a lot lesser on defense as well. That is one. 2, being an Indian cricketer, when you come from domestic into an international setup, you try and get better at playing pace bowling, which will be 75 to 80% of the time what you will be receiving as a batter. Now, the third point I've forgotten, Harsha. When I remember, I will tell you. I'm sorry, viewers. My line of thought was so deep into these 2 points. The third point I did forget. But I can tell you one thing.
There's a nice 3-letter word for it. There's a nice 3-letter word. 2 3-letter words come to mind. One is kid, which you just called Bumrah. The other is the outcome of being a kid, which is age. It happens to me all the time. You'll be amazed how often I'm looking straight into camera and I've suddenly said, oops, what was it that I wanted to talk about? I just had a feeling, and this is something that former players have told me for a long time, which is that as you get older, it takes a little longer to come back from a break. Should Virat Kohli have just gone and played 80, 100 balls in a Duleep Trophy game? Or does he now know everything? I mean, he's been around he's one of the greats of the game, so who am I to talk about him? But can he just back himself with his extraordinary work ethic and say, I'll practice in the nets and that'll be enough for me?
Well, I think he's gone through the whole gamut of playing this sport and he knows where he stands with it. If he requires to deal with an issue, he will deal with it. For example, in the 2022 IPL, when his bat wasn't going at his best, he did work on certain aspects of his batting, mainly the trigger movement, his initial movement, where he wants to be at the point of delivery. And he put a lot of work into that off the field. Now, at this point of time, the first innings, he went out playing a big cover drive, nicked off. And we showed it on how on the second innings he's come back and immediately reversed that thought process.
Balls.
Let me leave that ball now. Let me take his time. So that's what it takes for a great man like him. Just a mental fine-tuning. If you're going to tell me because he's going to play a Duleep Trophy, he's going to come and play Mehdi Hassan Miraj better, I will definitely debate against it till the cows come home. For the moment, though, he will say one thing. He played the wrong shot or he executed his shot wrong. And I will be very surprised if he does it in the innings that he's going to play in the near future. Let it be Kanpur for the moment. You won't see him repeating that mistake. I think speaking to him as well, he has gotten to a stage where his body is telling him you cannot bat long hours in the nets like before as well. You know, he wants to keep his mental energy of his batting as much as possible and uses it, you know, very wisely, let's say. And interestingly, Harsha, a lot of the batters these days, the ones who are experienced, seem to bat a lot lesser and work on their fitness and the mental side of things a lot more.
I could not agree more. There's a celebrated story of Sunil Gavaskar not batting the nets before the 87 World Cup. He just took throwdowns. I think Tendulkar had got to a stage where he was taking throwdowns. One of the side effects of being Virat Kohli and having to play to the standards that you have created for yourself is that everything gets questioned after a while, and there's such a vast army of fans that they want to know too, and so there will inevitably be discussions about Virat Kohli. All I will tell you is his last innings, one of his last innings coming into this in India before this was 186. When he gets it right, he'll go and get big ones. TK,
sorry, Ashish.
Have you remembered the third one? You remembered the third one?
Yeah. And also, correct. The third one was the fact that he did have 3 good net sessions in UK with Ryan Tendulkar. Yes. So it's not like he's not been completely batting.
No, he was.
knows,
I
he's
know that.
aware, he's
I
responsible.
don't look. You might talk about Virat Kohli's form or whatever. I don't think anybody, even his fiercest enemies, can ever point a finger to his work ethic, to his preparation, to his planning. That will never be in question till the day he plays his last game. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you might have got an inside edge and didn't know? Now, was that a flutter on the Virat Kohli dismissal? Was that a little flutter on on the sound recording machine? Could it have come with bad hitting pad? I mean, I think there are now people who know it. But has it ever happened to you that there's been an inside and you didn't know?
I've always felt I didn't nick it, but the umpire heard it. That I felt a lot, Harsha. And he's always wrong, the umpire. That I can tell you for sure. The other way around, I'm just trying to think. I would like to say no to it. But on a serious note, though, jokes apart, there are two things that when batting, two instances that you can miss. One is the bat hitting the ground and the ball hitting the bat at the same time. Then you kind of not get the feel that you would if your bat doesn't hit the ground. The second one is bat and pad together. If the impact is at the same time of the pad and bat, you don't know which one has come first, but you would know whether it hit the bat or the pad for sure, but you don't know which one came first. That is a doubt that has happened when practicing a lot, and it does happen. In this case, he's completely missed it, which tells me that. And Virat is someone at times when it is not hit, he feels it's hit. So this one, I'm surprised it's the other way around. A very rare occurrence, must say. He's had the problem that I generally have, but on this one, it's a very rare one. It's been a very rare test match as well. Cloudy way to start, slightly green pitch in Chennai, and me giving you a few sledges during the day. It's been that kind of a test match now. Let's accept it.
I've got a little comeback. Don't worry, we'll get there. Before we end today, the one thing I want to talk about is it's only 30 not outs for Shubman Gill. But Shubman Gill has played two or three shots today that you look at and say, Shubman, don't stop playing this, because when you are batting like this, we don't want to go anywhere. We want to watch you bat. And especially against the faster bowlers, we talked on air a lot about the punch of the back foot. That's a regal shot, whether it's a Tendulkar playing it or anyone else playing. It's a regal shot. When you just punch, he punches with minimal effort. I love the shot that he plays through mid-wicket. There was a third shot that I liked him play today, and that was a sweep shot he played of Mehdi Hasan Miraj. And I thought that was tactically it was a very astute shot. But I know that I know that your weakness for the back foot punch.
I was in fact going to ask you which of the two shots did you like, the punch or the pull, and then I will in my mind decide how you would have batted and how you would have played that shot. So if you can give me the answer, let me just give me the pleasure of visualizing a Harsha Bhogle batter.
Me, the punch of the back foot is just a regal shot, and I don't know how many times I've seen Tendulkar play that shot, and I've gone on record as saying I will never tire. But Tendulkar's back foot punch was through cover. This was a little through cover point, but it was, I mean, you looked at it, it's a kind of shot that you go, wow, did I see that? The reason I like the shot through mid-wicket is it's a shot his own. He's played it so many times. He played it a lot in Australia in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. But that,
Short
just
arm
that
pull.
much?
The short arm
Oh,
pull.
brilliant. And because it's a shot that's his own, I tend to gravitate towards that. The sweep I just thought was tactically. He pulled it out, it was tactically, it was a very good shot.
Now leading on to the next question, Ashal, like Shubman has a short arm pull. What was part of Harsha Bhogle's repertoire? What was his own shot? I'm really keen. One of my goals, I think, getting into broadcasting is understanding how Harsha Bhogle, because when I imagine you batting, I must admit that All India Radio picture with the loose baggy pants, which is back in vogue and fashion now. You were a fashionista then, which people didn't know. We'll get to that a little later.
I'll tell you,
imagine you playing.
I played one game against a team that had one of Hyderabad's fastest bowlers. And I hit through the offside, and my partner looked at me like this, and I looked at him like this. None of us know which one was more surprised that I actually played the shot. But that happened. We are not going to go there because people will start saying, in his old age, he's trying to go back to some Kutti level of cricket that he played. So I'm not taking your bait. I'm not going in that direction. But because I'm the anchor, I'm the driver, I will take this car forward, and I will go fast forward. Take the driver analogy further. India in the driver's seat, over 300 runs ahead. Bangladesh in disarray, but you never write off a team when it comes to the fourth innings. What do you see India's strategy going ahead, assuming they have the options and are not bowled out? Or how do you see day 3 panning out?
A couple of things. Give a long enough hit to Shubman Gill, Rishabh, Pant, and KL Rahul for a start. Those three would love to get some time in the middle. And if you feel they've done enough and you're not all out, then choose the opportunity to declare at by then, if those three have still batted long enough, it'll be a very comfortable score for India to defend. And it's only a question of how tactically you want to use it, half an hour before tea or just after tea or whatever that could be. But if you get all out, then I think there's no question asked there. It's going to go in a direction which will take its organic route. So for the moment, I'll say the biggest plus for India would be if all three of them can bat and get a good enough score that'll give them confidence moving forward for this whole season, which is 9 test matches after this. That will be the first priority for me, post which the timing of the declaration.
My view is that we'll probably be doing Cricbuzz Chatter around this time tomorrow, but Cricbuzz Chatter on day 4 will be a lot earlier than we are doing this today. That's just my view. But you know what? The great thing about Test match cricket is the moment you try to look too far ahead, it just drags you back and says, you know what? I've been around for 130, 140 years. Don't try and guess where I am going. So, yeah, but to end, India looking in great control. India's first objective was to win these 2 tests, then win 3 against New Zealand. I think they're well on course to winning this game and securing those vital 12 points in that World Test Championship cycle. So it's been very interesting being in Chennai these last couple of days. While the cricket's been fantastic, the icing on the cake has been, I've been to many studios across the world, but I got a chance to go to this most special studio of all. And last night, I got to take a photograph with Dinesh Karthik in his mansion. And there is the studio. You know, there's a door that opens. You have no idea the door is there, by the way. The door just opens. And there you go into the DK studio. Very, very happy to be at your place, but very happy to be in your studio yesterday.
I must say, I gave Harsha a very simple South Indian meal, and he was more than happy. And I really enjoyed how happy.
Perfect.
And
perfect. Nice.
One of the viewers, he said a very important thing. He said intent is more important than anything else. And he liked my intent. I'm very happy. Thanks for coming, Harsha. I must say on the show, there are a lot of people, and also I apologize to a lot of people that Indran Chandran was Tillu Mullu, Rajinikanth movie, and mistook it for some Kamal Hassan movie and made a grave error. My producer actually taunted me first thing in the morning. In the group chat, he put out the massive error that I had made. I'm sorry to all the Rajinikanth fans.
Let us go back to intent. The intent was to make a point, and the point was made. You only use someone else to make your point. That is fine. Indran or Chandran, DK is DK, and we enjoy having him on the program. We've given him a bit of a hard time about the game happening in Chennai, but that's the way it is, because you know, younger generation these days, they give as they get, so they must get a little bit as they give. So there you are. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a very eventful day, and that's why Cricbuzz Chatter today was a lot longer than it is normally. Tell us whether you are okay with this duration. Tell us whether you're okay with DK talking the way he does to senior citizens, or you can send all your responses that you want. But yeah, it was a good day's Test cricket. Test cricket rarely disappoints. It was a good day's Test cricket, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of day 3.